Okay, so welcome back to my channel where we're still chasing that sound. And so today I thought I'd do a quick little thing to get my feet back into the whole thing as the weather is getting cold out now and it's time to stay inside and play around with the gear again. So today I thought I'd do a little something about this Univox unit, the EC-80, which was used by Eddie live back in the day and in the studio on specifically and most famously Eruption, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about a theory of how this played into everything. And I'm still kind of working on the theory a little bit, but it's kind of interesting. And it's part of a mystery, I think, that's partially been solved and partially hasn't been solved. But I think we're going to talk a little bit about that today. So anyway, thanks for tuning in. And once again, this is brought to you by Three Monkeys solderless cables, right? So we got these really cool solderless cables that I hook my pedal boards up with and all my gear up. It's simplest stuff on the planet, made here in the US, and basically there's no wire stripping, no nothing. Here's a new product that'll be coming out soon. I better hide that so no one's supposed to know about it. But basically you just cut the cable and you screw these things on, right? You don't got to solder, you don't got to strip cable, you just got to be able to cut and screw, and most people can cut and screw. So anyway, check us out at throughmonkeysolderless.com. So anyway, let's talk about the unit, right? So we've seen pictures, right, of Eddie's pedal board and of his gear and of the practice bomb and of all this stuff. And quite frankly, there's been some hints and some people talking about it, been there secondhand from like Rudy Lyron, who was, setting up the gear all the time back in the day, about how all this stuff was assembled. But I don't think it's 100% clear. At least it's not to me, right? So we have pictures of Eddie's pedal board, and the thing is like, God only knows what the hell's going on there, right? So just pull it up like on your computer. I'll just do it from memory, but you're going to see the pedal board, and you got the flanger, which is not even on the board, right? It's sitting on the floor and covered in duct tape, and it's all duct taped together. Next to that, you've got like this kooky, basically scavenged color sound pedal that's now some kind of an amp switcher maybe or something, God knows, with like 1 in and 3 out. You have the phaser on the floor, right, which has the output duct tape but not the input key, right? And then you've got this other weird black box up in the corner that's got another switch and ins and outs and cables hanging out of it, and God knows what's going on there. And then you have, the MXR blue 6-band EQ, the 6-shooter, right? So how is all this stuff hooked together? And then, you got like the Echoplexes sitting somewhere else, and then the Univox up in that practice bomb. And, what was going on there? I'm not entirely sure, but my guess is that he was doing some hand switching and some foot switching, and that, like on the pedal board here that I've got, the flanger, the phaser, the Echoplex, and the 6-shooter, the 6-band EQ, and, his pedal board, it was like he was constantly either futzing with the 6-band's input and output as well as the phaser's input, but not its output. So that led me to believe that the phaser's position changed relative to what gear was being used, as well as whether the MXR 6-band was being used at all. And I believe it has to do with this unit, the Echoplex, or rather, the Univox Ec-80. My theory for the signal chain is that when he was going into playing Eruption, which is where this was primarily used at, I'm unaware if it was used anywhere else. It might have been, but I think that's where it was mostly used, is that the guitar went into the 6-band EQ, into the Univox, right? And then out of the Univox into the phaser, right? So it went all the way out there and all the way back and into the phaser, and then it went all the way down to his Marshalls. And the reason why I say that is because on like Eruption, when he's actually using it to do that dive bomb part, you can hear the phaser kind of, it's working on that wow, 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 and it's going. So the two together produce that, wow, 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 wow. If that makes any sense to you at all. It doesn't to me, but maybe I could sort of like show you something. I also think that when you put the the 6-band EQ in front of this thing and kind of blast the front end of this Univox unit, you get a different sound than you would if you were using the MXR into the front end of the amplifier. Okay, so maybe we should just mess around with that for a quick second. So I've got, the simple setup right now, which is sort of what we'll be talking about in further episodes, which is just based around like the little Mototeddy pedal. This one's the SM-3, and we're going guitar, pedal board, the Univox thing, SM-3, into a little Focusrite back here, and then into the Mac, which has some plugins that we'll talk about in a future episode. But anyway, let's turn on this stuff. That was muted, right? So you can hear the phaser on. So this is, okay, so this is the sound of the amplifier just going guitar into this guy, and then into, and we've got to actually set this into that input. Guitar into this guy, into the Marshall, right? Right, and then we can turn on the EQ, right? And please forgive my playing. You know what? I'm going to take a challenge. I'm going to try to actually learn how to play guitar or play this song, play Eruption. I don't think it's going to be easy because I'm terrible. But as we know, I'm not here to give you a guitar lesson. We're here to play around with equipment. So anyway, as you can see, the sound of the overdriven unit, I think it adds something. Right, and this is sort of where he comes up. He goes, boom, boom. And then what I think he does, right, is he turns up the balance, and then the speed, the repeat numbers. And then lowers it to pitch. Something like that. I'm going to work out exactly what the procedure is for all of that. But I wanted to kind of introduce the possibility that, the signal chain was different for different songs, and what was the signal chain for each one. So, I think that'll be good for today. And I think, tomorrow or the next day, we'll go over a little bit about some of the other equipment that was used in some previous videos. We had discussed some of the analog gear that I was putting together last year to kind of cope with the studio problems, right? Like using API gear, the 3-band EQ, the mic preamp, using 1176s from Universal Audio, and a Pultec EQ to sort of simulate what one channel at Sunset Sound would have been like. There's also plugins available for that stuff as well, which we'll sort of get into as well for those that want a simpler solution, which I think is really where we want to be. Because, it's possible, to assemble, 200-watt stacks, 412s with JBLs and G12Hs in them, mic that up, go into a channel of API gear, put in reverb and all kinds of stuff and compression afterwards. But that's... I've got all that stuff up there, and it's very expensive. It's a pain in the ass to set up, and you know what? You can't play it and listen to it at the same time. It really doesn't work unless you've got an ISO room and then you're sitting in a control booth. Those of you that have all that stuff, you're very lucky, but for the rest of us, we got to figure out a way to get a cool sound in our living room and be able to play it while we have neighbors, right? So that's going to be the focus of this whole thing going on from here out, is how are we going to get that with a minimum amount of gear that's not stupid expensive, using some plugins, using a computer, and using monitors or headphones to get our sound. So anyway, that's where we're going to be headed. So I hope you'll stick around for a few more of these, and we'll have some fun together, and maybe we'll invent some new gear to solve some of the problems that we incur. But anyway, I think that's it, and I'll see you guys later.